Don't let someone get your goat. There's plenty to go around for everyone. 103.3 The GOAT, the greatest sports talk of all time.
Great Scott!
The Great Scott Show.
And as they head into the final furlong, all of the other radio stations and radio hosts are left in the wake of a keen turn of speed by the Great Scott Show, the champion.
With Scott Prather.
Steal the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Great Scott Show. On a Monday morning, the Saints season is officially over, as we knew it would be when we spoke to one another this morning. We knew going into yesterday's game that they were eliminated from the playoffs already, but they just had to end the season on a fitting note, didn't they? I mean, wasn't it apropos that they just outplayed an opponent all day and still lost because of just dumb mistakes? That was kind of the Saints season in a nutshell for the most part. So it was fitting that that's how they ended their season. On a Sunday in the Superdome when, you know, hundreds of cars were broken into outside of the dome. That's a bigger concern to people going to Saints games than them losing games, to be honest with you. But the NFL playoffs are set. The bracket is set. We've got Super Bowl odds. We've got some surprise teams. We got a lot to unpack there. UL wins. Women's and men's win their games on Saturday. Women handle business at Texas State. Big road win. The men, it's always good to beat Georgia State. And they defend home court. We'll get into that. The Natty, the national championship game tonight. The game everyone predicted, right? Georgia and TCU. Everyone thought TCU would be in there. Now, everything's pointing to a Bulldogs dominant victory. Their depth, their talent, are they just going to throw TCU down? But TCU, no one thought they'd be here anyway. They win close games if they can just keep it close. If they can just keep it close. Bulldogs fan Alex George will join me at 8:30 this morning. Before that, phone lines are open if you want to chat about any and all of that at 337-269-1077. So the Saints, well, the Saints do what the Saints did, what they've done all season. You realize Alvin Kamara rushed for over 100 yards yesterday? Didn't even feel like that, did it? Taysom Hill was averaging 5 yards a carry. They ran the ball. Andy Dalton didn't throw any interceptions. Like, if you didn't look at the final score and I showed you all the other stats, oh, the Saints had more first downs. Oh, well, you know, both teams ran the same amount of plays. The Saints had over 100 more yards. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they held the Panthers to 32 passing yards. 32. Uh-huh. Yeah, the Panthers averaged 1.9 yards per pass. Yeah. Yeah, Saints were only penalized twice all day for 15 yards. Oh, they won the turnover battle by one as well. They got 2 interceptions. Yeah, time of possession, not even a minute off. Very close. Almost even. Yeah, Saints were at home. Yep. Oh, they won, right? Right? Well, if you would have said, oh, certainly, then you haven't been watching the 2022 Saints, because I get it's the year 2023, but it's still the 2022 season, and that was all 2022 Saints. Will Lutz out there kicking the ball like Me. I mean, what happened? Dude was a Pro Bowler. I mean, 2 kicks that are right there, not hard, and he wasn't even close. Snap's good, hold is good. Oh, and where did he kick it? Where did he kick it? So the Saints season comes to an end in fitting fashion. 10-7 the final. They enter, what changed yesterday with the loss? I mean, they don't have a first-round pick. So their draft position in the second round changed a little bit. Really, the big thing that changes is 3 opponents next year because they officially finished third in the NFC South. So now the Saints on the schedule next year, 3 games are decided by where you finish in the division. They will go, it's my understanding, they will go to New England. They will go to L.A. to play the Rams, and they will host the Giants. Those are the 3 games next season impacted by them losing that game yesterday. A lot of folks feel like Dennis Allen will be back. He probably will, but boy, they got major changes they got to make. They tried to run it back last season with let's keep as many people on the staff as possible. Yeah, Sean Payton's going, let's keep as many, and it didn't work. You can't do it again. Three 337-269-1077. Hit me up. We're going to talk some NFL playoff matchups. The Packers and Aaron Rodgers eliminated by the Lions last night. That was a fun game. Natty tonight, Georgia and TCU. Little college hoops if you want to hit on Pels is always welcome as well. Let's head to the phone lines. Good morning. Welcome into the Great Scott Show. Hello.
Well, I'm glad it's over.
I am too. I'm glad. I'm glad the Saints season is over. I agree with you.
I've never been this disappointed in that football team. I mean, I've been behind them, against them, behind them. I've been every way you can be. I've never been this disappointed in that team. Never. And all the time since I've been a fan or since I was been following them since, their second year is when I remember I first started knowing anything about football or pulling for the Saints.
A lot of people yesterday were saying, it's the most losses they've had in a season since 2005. And I look at 2005 and I just throw it out the window because that was the Katrina season and there were many, many things out of their control that would lead to a record like that. This was, this was the most losses, if you want to put an asterisk next to 2005, and I do, this is the most losses since the Ditka era. And the Ditka era was horrible. I mean, that's the kind of season they had this year in a division where not a single team had a winning record. And, blown opportunity would be, the title of the book of this season for the Saints. Or rather, blown opportunities. Because they had so many of them on game day that they consistently blew. They were in the worst division ever, which, win it. I mean, you get to host a playoff game, fly a banner. Like, you have 6 games on your schedule that isn't all that difficult because of who you're playing. But they just blew it, and they did that all season.
Well, the thing that made it disappointing to me was I actually believed that they had all the pieces of the puzzle to be a really good football team, including depth. And did so much for continuity. I mean, I knew I was being lied to. I tell you when I knew I was being lied to, when the C.D. Deuce thing happened and when they kept Traquan Smith, and nobody's going to tell me. I'll just tell you right now, you take the receiving corps, for example. They had the kid from South Alabama, the kid from Nicholls State, Rashid Shaheed, and Chris Olave. All 4 of those guys should have been kept on this football team. I don't want to hear anything about rookie this or any of this. You look at Marquez Callaway and Smith, Traquan Smith, once again, Traquan Smith did absolutely nothing, not anything. Name one catch he has made, except for the catch from Drew Brees when he broke that record, the touchdown record or the receptions record or whatever, yardage record or whatever it was. Name one thing that Traquan Smith has done in his entire stinking career with this football team that meant anything. Oh, he blocks. Well, gee whiz, go get a fullback. We don't need a receiver out there. Go get a fullback.
He played 15 games this season, and he had 19 receptions. That's it. In 15
there
games.
We go. And I knew when they kept him. I said, this is not good. And that's where, this whole thing about continuity is so overrated. You don't need continuity. You need competitiveness. And there was the problem for the Saints. They came into the season with, first of all, they shoved Ian Book down our throats the whole preseason. A guy who was never good enough to play in the NFL, a guy who was never going to make the football team, and you have other guys out on the football field with him trying to compete for positions that you need filled, and you got a guy that can't get them the football no matter what they do, so they can never show how good they can be. What good is doing that? You did absolutely nothing. You wasted your whole preseason getting ready for the season so that you could come out and have a decent start to the season. You blew it by doing that to begin with and shoving that thing down our throats and making us want to throw up. The preseason was miserable and the regular season was miserable. At least if you're going to be miserable, have a decent preseason and make people think you're going to be good. That I don't ever want to see that again. Ever. You get players that are going to make your team or competing for jobs. You get them on the field, and if they can't make it, then you get rid of them. But what they did this year was a joke. I thought Mickey Loomis did a horrible job. You look at what they tried to do with Latavius Murray after he came in there and had a good game for him and could have helped him instead of keeping him on the roster. They think they're going to sneak him by after he was the only one who had a decent day on the football team that week, and they pulled that crap. They tried to be too cute. They tried to be too smart. And they caused their own issues. Anybody who says, "Oh, well, it was this, it was that," no, it was the Saints' own coaching staff and leadership that led them down this rabbit hole. And if they don't take accountability, then it's not going to get any better, Scott. That's just the way it is. I'm not even going to. But I can tell you, I'm not going to waste my time anymore the rest of my life getting all fired up in an off season about what I think this team is going to be or going to do, because it's a waste of time, a massive, massive waste of time. You there?
Oh, I'm here.
Hey, I got one stat for you though. Let me tell you this real quick. You'll like this. You know that yesterday, I don't know if you know it or not, but just to let you know, the Sam Darnold had a 2.8 quarterback rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. 2.8. And I got thinking, how in the hell do you lose to a quarterback with a 2.8 quarterback rating? So I looked up stats on worst quarterback ratings of all time in the NFL, because I thought surely that had to be the worst one I ever heard of. Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't even really. It was close, but you actually had 8 times in NFL history when a team has had a 0.0 quarterback rating in a football game. And 2.8 isn't the lowest beyond that. They've actually had 2 1s, 2 2s, some 3s, 4s.
Did any of them win?
5. Huh?
Did any of them win?
Here's the interesting thing. Out of 22 times with a quarterback having a rating of under 6 in NFL history, how many times do you think that team won the game?
No idea. A couple.
Huh?
A couple.
Guess what? 22 out of 22, they won the game.
That doesn't make any sense.
That's insane.
That doesn't
I
make
couldn't
any
believe
sense.
it when
That doesn't make any sense.
They listed the game, the date, everything, and the completion for it's on StatMuse. Completions, attempts, percentage, yards, interceptions. Out of all 22 games, there wasn't a single touchdown. If you have a single touchdown, obviously it can't be that low. But there was no touchdowns, and there was a lot of games with 4 interceptions, 3 interceptions, 2 interceptions, and of course they did have some with 1 interception. But 22 out of 22 times, the team that had the quarterback that absolutely sucked won the game.
Well, no,
Crazy
I mean,
stat.
I'm looking at it. Let me see here. Let's see.
Look it up.
All right, so 22 out of 22, you said? Because I'm looking at Jeff Garcia
22
right
out of
here.
22.
Jeff Garcia on StatMuse, 0.0 against Dallas 2004. Cleveland lost that game. Tim Hasselbeck,
Okay.
Washington versus Dallas. Let's see here. Give me a second. December 14th.
No. Look, don't look at a single person. Look at the team for the whole game.
Washington, Hasselbeck lost that game. His quarterback rating was 0.0.
But did he play the whole game?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, all the ones I'm looking at, all of these quarterbacks lost those games.
I'm talking about teams that played a whole game at the quarterbacking position where they went with they didn't get the quarterback didn't get replaced. I don't know what or it could have been anything, any combination of things. Could have been a replacement quarterback. Could have been a quarterback got hurt. Whatever. That was what I saw on StatMuse, and
I'm just looking at
that's wrong,
StatMuse
I'm
now,
sorry.
and a lot of these guys, at least everyone I've looked at so far, lost the game. That's what I'm looking at.
Look up.
Like Andy Dalton's on this list for a game in 2014 when the Bengals lost to the Browns 24-3. His quarterback rating was 2.0, and they lost the game 24-3. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I'd never heard of a quarterback having a 2-point-something rating.
Yeah, it happened. 6 quarterbacks are
Well,
tied for the lowest passer rating in a game with 20. Oh, I'm sorry. This is with 25 or more passing attempts. So these guys were really out there slinging it. But they all had really awful ratings, and they all lost the game. So it's happening.
Okay, what I saw was teams that had, some of them had 34 passing attempts was the most passing attempts that I saw. But I didn't see anything of any quarterbacks with having.
No, shoot me an email. I'll send you the list.
Well, I did. Well, I tried to send a link to
Send it to you.
Spencer. Well, one of them. Somebody
I mean,
else.
look, the reality is it's getting back to the awful Saints this season. I mean, Sam Darnold was 5 of 15 for 43 yards, 2 picks, was sacked twice, and the Saints lost.
We won the turnover battle.
Yeah, Saints lost.
We had 100 more yards of offense. Their quarterback only had 43 yards of passing.
Their running back that was averaging 5.7 yards a carry got ejected.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
all of those things, and they lost. Yeah, no, it was a fitting end to the season. It was very apropos how they played.
It was how to do what you can to lose a game that you have no business losing.
Yep.
Just like the Tampa Bay game.
Mm-hmm.
That was the story of the Saints season, and I don't know how in the world you can let Dennis Allen have another year after that. But they're gonna, and I got a feeling it ain't gonna change next year. I'm already not looking. I mean, how can any Saints fan really look forward to next season?
The only thing, if you want to be the eternal optimist, what you have to do is convince yourself that if they get the right OC, that they can turn some things around. That's what they have to do. I mean, you get the right OC, you can fix the offense a little bit, and then, defensively, maybe you can still be good. I mean, I saw some people saying, hey, look, Dan Campbell looked bad, and then he fired at OC and got Ben Johnson. I don't like that, because with Detroit, you see a team that plays their tail off for Dan Campbell all the time. And, yeah, if you want to point out that he struggled and looked somewhat clueless, but then fired his OC and got a good one, and that helped. Yeah, it helped. They're still not in the playoffs. They only won one more game or two more games than the Saints this year, but it did help. It does appear that they're on the right path, but you saw a team that always played their tail off no matter what. And the team for the Saints, I mean, it wasn't like they never played hard for Dennis Allen, but it's a different kind of you know it when you see it. They're not out there going repping for Dennis Allen the way the Lions rep for Dan Campbell. They're just not.
They were too satisfied with a good losing effort, and that's something that you got a problem right there. And Andy Dalton, I can tell you this: I don't know if you notice this or not, but Andy Dalton seems to be a great quarterback as long as he's on the script. When he's not off,
well, yeah.
As soon as the
Kyle. That has been the story. That's been the story of his entire career, though. Like that ain't this year. That's every year with him.
But I mean, people in leadership in the front office and the coaching staff should already see these things and understand what you have. You have a quarterback that is not going to ever be a winner in this league. All he's doing is marking time, and that's what it looks like. The Saints. That's what I'm sorry. That's what we've got. We're going to go. Saints are going to get worse, and then they have to rebuild. And that's you're talking 5 years.
Got to let it go.
50 years old.
Just got to.
I can't get excited about it. I mean, give me a shout back when they when it looks like they're going to be young and fresh. Got to have a quarterback. Got to have some running backs. Got to have a lot of things. Later.
Emails. You can email me, Scott at 1033thegoat.com. You can tweet the show at 1033thegoat. My friend Ralph tweeted the other night that his wife said, Dennis Allen looks like a husband at CVS confused about what kids' medicine to buy. I'll never unsee this. I can't think of a more fitting description. He does. He looks like a husband at CVS confused about what kids' medicine to buy. Just kind of looking at each aisle, looking at the kids' meds. Is it this one? Trying to read the label. I don't know. Not sure. Jay emails. He says, I think we saw Kamara play his last game in a Saints uniform. Am I tripping? He also adds he thinks Will Lutz is gone. I don't know what the heck that was from Lutz the other day. Goodness. We need to talk about that. That was bad. Kamara, I don't think is gone. No. I know a lot of that's actually a pretty popular pick as far as maybe being gone. I'll say this. Here's what's interesting about the Kamara contract. So at face value, it really would not do the Saints any good to release him. Right? You're looking at a nearly $20 million dead cap hit. As opposed to, his cap hit in general is about $16 million. I think the dead cap is like 19.4. In 2024, after the 2023 season, there is a potential out where the dead cap hit, if you do it on a certain date, it's a lot less than if you keep them around. So next year would make a little more sense. But what is his contract going to look like, assuming, and this is a safe assumption, when he restructures? And he will restructure. Why? Because at some point he's probably going to have to serve a suspension. And why would he want to restructure? Because he's going to want to get his weekly game check, his weekly salary down as low as he can and get a big fat converted signing bonus, so that way he loses as little money as possible during his suspension. When his agent goes to the Saints for that, and when they negotiate that, what does it do to the future years on that contract? And will the Saints finesse it in a way where, hey, you know what? If it doesn't work out next season, we still have an easy out here. In fact, we have an even better out. I think that's what you got to keep an eye on, because a restructure is guaranteed. Both sides are going to want it, but I don't think Kamara's played his last game as a Saint. I don't. I'd be very surprised. Now next year, we'll see. Appreciate the email. $25 after the hour. Scott Prather. Saints season comes to an end. National championship is tonight. We've got some NFL playoffs to break down. The Dolphins and the Seahawks get in yesterday. Two teams that needed a little help. I'll be honest with you, that Seahawks, nothing against the Seahawks, and obviously I'll be rooting for them against the Niners. Nothing against the Seahawks, but man, I was really hoping the Rams would beat them, just so that if the Lions beat the Packers, the Lions would get in. And they did beat the Packers, and they didn't get in, but they were playing like they just could see how much that game meant to them. Game was fun as hell last night. And the speculation begins as Aaron Rodgers. I want to talk about the playoffs. Jacksonville getting 2 Saturday night playoff games in a row, because while it wasn't technically a playoff game, it was a playoff game Saturday night. And everyone assumed, Jags-Chargers, that's going to be the early Saturday game, right? I mean, that's going to be the Nickelodeon game. No, that one gets Saturday night treatment again. Duval, are you serious? I got to be loving that. Seahawks, Niners, Vikings, Giants, Cowboys, Bucks on Monday Night Football. How that could impact the Sean Payton sweepstakes. All of that and more coming your way. It's the Great Scott Show on a Monday. 103.3 The GOAT, simulcast on 1420. We're back after this on The GOAT, the greatest sports talk of all.
Don't let them pull the wool over your eyes.
And they bring in this rookie, Chris Olave.
Get your sports news straight from the GOAT.
To the end zone, caught for the touchdown. Chris Olave.
103.3 The GOAT.
Welcome back into the Great Scott Show, 103.3 The GOAT simulcast on 1420. Your weather forecast from the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab and Daniel Phillips. Today, mix of clouds and sun. Cool, high of 65. Tonight, clearing, cool with a low of 49. Not quite as cool as it was last night and early this morning, but still cool enough. Phone lines open, 337-269-1077. Bulldogs fan, friend of the program, Alex George, going to join me on the phone line in about an hour. We'll talk about tonight's national championship game. We're talking Saints and NFL right now. Let's head back to the phone lines. Good morning. Welcome into the show.
Watching that game Saturday night, between the Jaguars and the Titans, it reminded me of a game from the 95 season, the game between the Colts and the Patriots. It was one of those games, if the Colts win, they go to the playoffs. That's the playoffs when Jim Harbaugh threw that pass.
When they nearly beat the Steelers and they dropped it in the end zone, where they got hot. Yeah. That was a fun Colts team. Quentin, Zach Crockett. That was the running back. Yeah, that's who it was. Sorry, you got me reminiscing. Yeah, Crockett,
but there was another guy because Falk got hurt. I think Warren, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
that was the running back.
Yeah,
because but right, Zach Crockett was. I think he was around that time. But man, it reminded like the Florida game. I knew for a fact. I said Jaguars going to win this game, even when they were down. I just felt like momentum changing. Like it was their game to win the whole game. I don't care if they were down. I just knew they were.
It was a couple of things. So it was their defense. You know, Tennessee. I think I don't know, man. I don't know what they do at quarterback, honestly. But for Jacksonville, is it just like further proof that Urban Meyer is the worst NFL coach ever? I mean. He leaves, and the next season they have a winning record and win the division after being, the worst team in the league last year. He'll probably try to take credit somewhere for it, but man, was he bad.
That's why I wanted Doug Peterson.
Is Doug sneaky underrated? Guy won a Super Bowl, and there were a lot of people critical of the hire in Jacksonville. I'm like, I get that he's not, he's not the most friendly. There were some issues in Philly between him and ownership because he's not, he's not a yes man, right? He could be a little rough with authority figures, but the guy figures out how to win, man. He's a good coach.
Yeah, I wanted him. Hey, man, I'm switching gears. Dana White, man. ESPN is garbage. I'm sure, I don't really watch ESPN. I don't watch it. Basically, Stephen A. Smith, when he has vitriol for athletes, certain athletes, he's hype. Dana White, he's subdued. I think he's almost like he was on a Valium or something.
It's almost like they have a large contract with the same reason they don't call out owners as much. No, look, Dana White's a lousy human being. He has been. He was on the record saying years ago, and I quote, the one thing we won't look past is hitting a woman and abusing a woman, end quote. And then he brings in Greg Hardy, and he profits off of that. He's out there, slapping his wife back, saying, we were drunk. I mean, I shouldn't have done it. No, look, I don't watch ESPN much either, unless it's a game. I occasionally will watch Van Pelt late, not a ton, but I kind of like him. But it doesn't surprise me that they didn't cover that much, not nearly as much as if that had been a player.
The only person I've seen go at it was, on a podcast with Bomani Jones and Foxworth. They were the only two that I've seen.
But Bomani's not employed by ESPN anymore, right? I don't think he is. He's
I thought the right time. Oh, okay. I thought that right time.
Well, he's on HBO, right? He's a show on HBO. I don't know if he still even gets a paycheck from ESPN. I don't think he does. I could be wrong.
Okay, I thought his podcast was
he might be on it, but I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know that he is employed by ESPN.
Oh, I thought he said this, but yeah, man. Let's go back to speaking of ESPN. Another thing too, man. You had two NFL games on ABC. Why not put this championship game on ABC? Like, what is that? Like, that's one thing that never got me, man. This whole college football playoff is on a cable network. Like, just if you don't have cable, you can't watch the game.
Yeah, it had to do with how much. It is weird that ESPN and ABC is under the same umbrella, but I think based on I think the NCAA or the College Football Playoff Committee, I think they were able to get a little extra money out of it by ESPN saying we want to have exclusive rights to this because we want to try to draw more people. But at that point, I mean, is anybody going to get cable or get ESPN that doesn't have it because the game's on there? Like, and it's not just about that. They want to draw people to their products. It's why, Fox and CBS pay out the wazoo for NFL. They don't make back money in advertising during NFL games what they give to the NFL, but it's their biggest tool to promote everything else they have on the networks. But that's just not the case with the national championship game. I don't know. I'm with you, man. Why not put it on ABC? But they have their business reasons why. But I know this: all the money they spent on getting the college football playoff or the national championship game. The first couple of years, they had to give money back to some of their advertisers because they promised certain ratings for those semifinal games that just didn't hit at all. So I think ESPN, they'll never admit it, but there is a little bit of buyer's remorse in terms of how much they spent to get the rights and the exclusive rights to say we're going to air all three of the college football playoff games.
I just know one thing, man. It's nice to see no Patriots and no Packers in the playoffs. It's nice to see that, especially the Patriots, man. But I wanted Detroit to make it.
Me too, man. Nothing against Seattle. Like I said, I'll be rooting for them against San Francisco. I don't think they're going to win. But I was following that Seahawks-Rams game on my phone like it was the Saints or something. I mean, I won't go that far, but I was really rooting just so that the Detroit-Green Bay game would be a de facto playoffs. But Dan Campbell basically said, all right, well, if we're going to be out, you are too. And they went out and they punked him, man. that was a great moment. Hopefully the Lions can build off of it and not just say, hey, our best win of the last decade was a regular season game. We'll see if they can actually do something with it next year. But it made for I feel like if a playoff game was on the line in that game last night, it would have even been that much sweeter.
Yeah. Hey, man. It's almost like the Saints were trying to lose. Another thing too, why Davenport shouldn't have got ejected from that game, man? Come on, like he didn't. That was a.
He kind of tapped him. He kind of tapped him, and then the other guy just took a swing, and I figured they would eject him, even though I don't necessarily agree with it. But
the way I look at it, well, guess what? He's been ejecting himself from games since his tenure been here. With the injuries, so
half a sack.
He's done.
I told everyone before the season, I don't care if he plays great this year, you can't bring him back. But he made the decision really easy on the Saints. I'm serious. I told you this months ago. I won't be surprised if he retires.
He will retire. Yeah, you did say that. I remember you saying
and not because he doesn't have some talent, because we've seen it at times. But I just think he's one of those cats where it's like football is just not his thing. It's more of a means to an end than like. I'm passionate about this, and it's nice that I get paid for it. I think it's just like, I'm just not having fun anymore. I won't be surprised if he just hangs it up.
Yeah, one more comment, and then I'm gonna hang up. I'm gonna steal this from Ron, the caller Ron. He does this every now and then. Eric Bieniemy, D'Amico Ryan, if you're listening, please do not become the next head coach of the Houston Texans. They're going to get rid of you after 1 year. Do not become the next head coach of the Houston Texans. Once again, D'Amico Ryan, Eric Bieniemy, or anyone who look like y'all, do not become the next head coach of the Houston Texans.
And D'Amico Ryan's played there, right? Like, he has history there. He has a lot of history with the Texans. But, man, I mean, they're about to be on their fourth coach in 4 years. Oof.
Yeah, I think that's going to be McCown.
Oh, they wanted him last year, and then they felt the heat of how they operate and decided I love when Lovey got the job. He's like, I wasn't expecting this. I really don't know how this happened.
Then they won.
I know. Good for Lovey. He didn't care. He knew he was going to get fired. He's like, I'm not blowing this game so you can get the number 1 overall pick. I'm going for 2. And the Bears have the number 1 overall pick for the first time since 1947. And you know what? As much as people are bagging the Texans for it, the truth is, Justin Fields played well this year. I don't think Chicago's moving on from Justin Fields. I don't. And so there's this criticism of, the Texans blew their chance to get Bryce Young if they wanted him. I'm like, no, I think if they want a quarterback, if that was their plan all along, they'll still be able to do. I think they're still, if they want a quarterback, I still think they're going to get the first quarterback in the draft, regardless if it's 1 or 2. And when it's 1, it comes with a little, a different set of, there's going to be a lot of pressure either way, but 1-1 brings a different kind of pressure than any other pick. So in the end, I think it might have actually worked out for him.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you, and you have a good one.
Thank you. And look, Bears fans still love Lovie Smith. Like, they love him. I mean, his home is in Chicago. That's where he is in the offseason. That's where he is, when he's not working. So Lovie Smith, Bears fans are like, we like when Lovie was there. We went to the Super Bowl. We had some good teams. We haven't really been good since he left. He just did them another solid. Because the Bears wanted that number 1 overall pick. Texans, 1 loss away from having their choice of a quarterback. They beat the Colts with a 2-point conversion. No. I think they made the right move there. I don't think it's going to, quote, bite them in the butt, as so many others have said. I don't. Chiefs and Eagles are your 1 seeds. Bills and Bengals also won their 2 and 3. There is a strong chance the AFC Championship game is going to be on a neutral field. Indianapolis, by the way, was asked by the NFL if they'd be willing to host that game, and they said no. So under the scenario where that game could be played on a neutral field, we still don't know where it's going to be. Good morning. Welcome into the Great Scott Show. Hello.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, what's up?
I've been thinking, what can make someone such an amazing coordinator but such a pitiful head coach? And, I think it comes down to, like, a coordinator is more about schematics and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And the head coach is more like a leader,
The thing is, like, I'll say this, David. I think in a lot of times I don't like or let me say this. In most cases, I'm not a fan of the comparison of, well, the player did this. If I did that at my job, I would never blah blah. And I don't like the sort of football comparison at the highest level to whatever you want to say is an everyday type of job. The exception to that is in cases like the one you're bringing up, because I do think there is a clear and obvious comparison that we've all seen. If you've been in the work field long enough, when you go from coordinator to coach, when you go from, I don't know, teacher to principal, when you go from employee to management, it changes, right? Because you have all of these extra responsibilities, like tons. And on top of that, you've got to get a team motivated and ready to go as well. And not to say the coordinators that some of that doesn't fall on them at times. I get it. I mean, I've always thought Ditka was the most overrated coach of all time because, Buddy Ryan was, in my opinion, the guy that really put together the defense and had them motivated and did all that stuff. But, like, the reality is when you go from a coordinator to coach, your responsibility in the amount of other things you have to do increases greatly. And you see it in pretty much any other line of work. When someone moves from one role up, whether it be into a management role or an authoritative role, you have probably, if you're listening right now, you've probably seen some individuals shine, and then you've seen others really struggle. And some of them love it and some of them hate it. They all kind of like the extra, the added numbers in the paycheck, but the thing that made them great or the thing they were great at, maybe it starts to suffer a little bit. And, some guys just, they can't handle it. So that's, I think when a coordinator is good and then is not good as a head coach, I think the everyday comparison to the everyday jobs, I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's just, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's deeper than that. Maybe I'm simplifying it too much.
What gets me is, like, what did he learn from Oakland? You know what I'm saying? Like, did he not? You think he would have improved? You know what I'm saying? He probably did. He's probably way better than he was in Oakland. But, like, it's not showing. I don't know.
I have no idea. Maybe he didn't. And each situation's different as far as ownership and everything else and who's around you. But I don't know, man. Some guys are just not cut out for it. They think it's going to be different this time, or now I'm going to do it this way, and they run into some problems, and they just can't seem to handle it.
And I feel like, I don't know, you feel differently, but I feel like the team actually plays hard for him.
I didn't say they didn't play hard for him. I said they never quit on him and they played hard, but it's a little different than what you see with, like, the Lions players and Dan Campbell. Like, they're not quitting. Like, the Saints players never quit on the season, and you kind of know it when guys start mailing it in. But they also just there was no edge about them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No, there was no, like, killer instinct.
It was kind of like, yeah, we're doing it because it's our job, but we're not like, I don't know. You just, if you watched it this season, you know what I'm talking about. I'm having trouble kind of putting it into words.
Whenever they had a lead, there was no, like, stepping on the throat and, finishing the team off, Or there was
no killer instinct.
I don't know if
none whatsoever.
Right.
No, there was no killer instinct. Not at all.
And, the fumbles, too, man. Like, they cleaned it up,
Here's
towards the end of the season.
Here's the other thing. Defensively, statistically, they were good this year, and that's quote Dennis Allen's. That's what he's focused on, with one exception. They could not get any turnovers at all. I mean, they were last in the league entering yesterday. They probably finished last.
Second on the team with interceptions with Daniel Sorensen.
Tyrann Mathieu led the team, but it was like with 3. I mean, it was just a huge missing element from this year's team, coupled with an offense that did give it away this season, and that's the difference between 7-10 and 10-7, honestly. And so if the defense could have forced some turnovers, I think you would be saying, well, at least Allen can still coach the defense, but all he needs is an OC. But there were just too many perpetual problems that never got better for this team. And if he ends the game with the win, if Lutz makes his field goals, you could say, well, they blew that game to Tampa, but if they hadn't done that, they would have won, 6 or 5 or 6 and all this blah, blah, blah. But no, yesterday it really was apropos how the season ended, because that was the Saints in a nutshell this season.
If we could take anything good away from Sunday's game, is hopefully that will be the reason that Andy Dalton won't come back. They won't bring Andy Dalton back. Just please, can we just move on from Andy Dalton? That's all I'm asking. Okay, I'm asking you one more thing. If you were the owner of the Saints, and with the way the NFL is going, would you want an offensive-minded head coach or a defensive-minded head coach? Which one would you want more?
I mean, the trend is offense, right? A lot of guys in the league are offensive-minded guys. But I think if you have the right coordinator, it may not matter. Because there's some defensive minded guys that are good. There's some offensive minded guys that are good, but I want a guy that's good at coaching coaches. I guess that's an evasive answer, but it's my way of saying I don't know that it matters all that much, to be honest with you. I think what matters is can you coach other coaches? Do you know how to find the right coordinator? I think those things in the end matter more. Look, if you're the play caller, I suppose who your OC is doesn't matter quite as much, right? But if you're not, then you better have a great OC. Now, the danger in that is if you have a really good OC, that coach will eventually get hired away. They will. If you have a good OC that is the play caller and not just sort of in the role of OC but not calling plays, they will get hired away. If you have a really good coach that is defensive-minded, the odds of you losing coordinators are high. If you have a really good offensive-minded coach, you have a good opportunity to keep your DC around for a long time. So I guess from that standpoint, in a perfect world, if you have a really good head coach, you would prefer them to be offensive-minded. I mean, at the end of the day, you just want a good head coach, offense or defense. But if you want to try to keep it, the train on the track and not lose a bunch of guys, having an offensive-minded head coach in today's NFL is better. Not for any other reason to me other than you have a good chance of keeping your core together.
And one more thing. I heard someone say that how should I word? The most the Saints should expect for Sean Payton in return is a first-round pick. That should be the least they should get. You know what I'm saying? That should be the base.
Look, if you're a Saints fan, you need to be, and it's going to be tough and it's weird. And I get it because a lot of people like to root against Dallas, and then again it's Tampa Bay, who Saints fans certainly don't like. But you want as much as it would annoy you, you want the national media just salivating over Tom Brady next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. You want them talking about how great he is, about how Tampa Bay is making another run, and about how the Dallas Cowboys, in a big moment, just completely blew it. Because despite the fact that they had a good season, if the Cowboys are one and done in the playoffs again, then there is a shot Mike McCarthy gets fired. And the fact that Sean Payton is interviewing with Denver, if they fire Mike McCarthy and they take a look at him, I don't think the Chargers are firing Brandon Staley, but if there's some kind of really, really embarrassing loss with all of these awful coaching decisions against the Jaguars, like you want as many bids for Sean Payton as possible to drive up that price. That's what you want to be rooting for. I mean, there was a small part of me last night. I couldn't really bring myself to do it, but I was doing Saints mind games with myself. I'm like, well, I want Detroit to win this game. It's nice to not have Green Bay in the playoffs. But you know what? Green Bay might have a better shot at beating San Francisco than Seattle. So, and if Denver has that San Francisco pick in its first overall, and, it's not first overall, it's their first round pick, and that's what they might be giving the Saints. So maybe I should be, and then I just told myself just to stop overthinking it and just, hope that the Lions win. But that's kind of where my mind goes immediately. And so despite the fact that the Saints had a putrid season, I'm going to be watching all the games, at least in week one of the playoffs, with a Saints hat on, because whatever could potentially benefit them the most, that's what I'm rooting for.
Yeah. Hey, do you think the Cardinals have a legit chance to get Peyton? Do you think he wants to go there?
I think if their owners are willing to pay a lot of money, yes. Look, much as Sean Payton wants a good fit, let me tell you something. He's not going to take he's not going to take significantly less because another team has a better quarterback. I know that'll be what everyone's going to say, but he's going somewhere where he's going to get paid a whole lot of money.
Yeah. All right, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Honestly, if the Texans were like, and they're not, if the Texans were like, hey, we're going to pay you 50% more than market value. You will be the highest paid coach in the NFL by a ton. Look at all our draft picks. I think even in Houston, she would be like, yeah, I'll do it. For that much money? That's good. You want as many head coaching openings as possible if you're the Saints. Drive up that price. But you need to do it now. You need to do it this offseason, because if you wait another offseason, you're not going to get anything. But Sean Payton, who knows? You wait another offseason, maybe there's, certainly there'll be something there, but it might not be what you want. It might not be a fit. It might not be as much money. Something has to get done this offseason. Has to. Coming up, the top of the hour, it's the Great Scott Show. I'm Scott Prather, 103.3 The GOAT, simulcast on 1420. Appreciate the calls this morning as the Saints season officially in the books. We've talked about that. Hit on the playoff picture a little bit. Some of the other games that unfolded over the weekend. Traffic reports for you guys. Unfortunately, there is a couple of vehicle accidents to report. Vehicle accident at 7:30 reported on Ridge Road and Rue de Baye, and a vehicle accident with injuries being reported as of 10 minutes ago on the corner of East Pinhook and Southwest Evangeline Thruway. So be careful out there, everybody. Please be safe. Don't rush. It can wait. Don't text and drive. Don't look at your phone. Keep your eyes on the road. Be safe this morning. We'll take a quick time out. When we come back, the 8 o'clock hour, we'll open up phone lines once again. Love the phone calls thus far. Super Bowl odds for the teams in the playoffs. We'll go through each one. And Alex George joining me at 8:30. Georgia and TCU in the national championship game tonight. Cajuns get a pair of wins, women and men, on Saturday. All of that on the table. If you want to hit on it, hit me up. Don't go anywhere. The Great Scott Show continues after this.
Great Scott! The Great Scott Show.
And as they head into the final furlong, all of the other radio stations and radio hosts are left in the wake of a keen turn of speed by the Great Scott Show, the champion.
With Scott Prather.
Steal the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Great Scott Show on a Monday. I'm Scott Prather. Hope everyone had a nice weekend. I got to NOLA Friday night. Got to see the Pelicans lose a close one to the Nets. Very short-handed right now. Pel's back in action tonight. Second game of a long road trip for them. They are in D.C. to take on the Wizards. Yes, I will be watching that. Most of you will probably, maybe you'll watch a little, and then you'll flip over to the Natty. I might flip over after the basketball game. But we'll flip back and forth. I'll figure it out. Will we have a good game tonight? We'll see. Alex George in 26 minutes to talk a little bit about her Bulldogs trying to go back to back. Phone lines are open for you at 337-269-1077. Here's your super wild card weekend schedule announced for the NFL. Surprisingly, Jacksonville and L.A., it's weird to call the Chargers L.A., the Jaguars and the Chargers are not playing in the first Saturday afternoon game. Not the 3:30 kickoff. That would be San Francisco hosting Seattle. San Francisco, who has pretty good odds to make the Super Bowl out of the NFC, but has a third-string quarterback. They kind of have everything else, don't they? Seattle gets in 9-8. Weird thing about Seattle is they lost. They were 0-4 against the NFC South this year. That's incredible. If you take away games that they played against the worst division in football, they were 9-4. But boy, you put them up against Tampa or Carolina or the Saints or Atlanta. 9-8. But that's the 3:30 game. You got Jacksonville hosting a Saturday night playoff game again. Technically, it wasn't a playoff game last Saturday, but it was. It was a win and you're in. You win the division. Buffalo hosts Miami in the noon game Saturday. Miami, who's going to be a quarterback? Will Tua return? Who knows? I would say probably not. Minnesota and the Giants. Interesting. I guess that makes sense, right? New York. That Fox Sunday afternoon slot is a big one. And they rolled with Minnesota and New York. I'm a little surprised that they didn't take Tampa and Dallas. I'm a little surprised. And I don't know technically the pecking order, but my guess would be Fox's first pick would be a little ahead in the order than ESPN. But they want that New York market, I guess. I don't know. Vikings, Giants, Sunday at 3:30, and then Sunday night at Cincinnati and Baltimore. Will Lamar Jackson play? He doesn't know. I would say probably not. Cincinnati beat Ravens on Sunday. They come into the playoffs red hot. If Lamar plays, then who knows? Anything's possible. And then Monday night, you have Tampa and Dallas. As far as Super Bowl odds go, you have Super Bowl odds from a betting standpoint. I'm bringing you odds via DraftKings Sportsbook. And then you have ESPN's Football Power Index, the FPI. Uses the computers, taking into account all this other stuff. The Chiefs, who get the 1 seed, who, if the Bills had been able to play, if the Damar Hamlin situation had not happened, and if they had beat Cincinnati and then won yesterday, they'd be the 1 seed. But they're not. Kansas City is. They beat the Raiders. Kansas City's weird. They struggle to put bad teams away, and yet they're obviously capable of beating anyone in the league by a bunch. Patrick Mahomes has never played a true road playoff game. It's been at home at Arrowhead or in the Super Bowls on a neutral field. That's how good the Chiefs have been. Their Super Bowl odds plus 330. Their FBI chance to make the Super Bowl 46.4%. Those are the highest and best. Bills plus 420 Super Bowl odds, 30.5% FPI. Bengals plus 800, 11.2% per FPI. Jacksonville, they're in the playoffs. They're hosting a game. I mentioned the Chiefs at plus 330. I mentioned the Bills at plus 420. I mentioned the Bengals at plus 800. Jacksonville is plus 5,000. Incredible. Very long odds. I mean, if you just wanted to place just a fun wager, a bleep it wager, I'm just going to put like $10 down, you know. What's a long shot? That would be Cincinnati last year was a little bit of surprise, the run they made, but it wasn't a shock. If Jacksonville made a run, it would be an utter shock. This team was 2-6 at one point. Plus 5,000, 4.1 FPI chance to make the Super Bowl. Chargers, plus 2,200 Super Bowl odds as far as betting goes, but just 3.3% per FPI to make the Super Bowl. Odds not as great, and that tells you that bettors tend to like the Chargers. Computers and others don't, but bettors, I don't know. They always just look at them like, God, they got all this talent. They look really good. Getting off the bus. But at some point, they just charger it up, right? In defense of the Chargers, they are getting healthy. They do seem to be peaking at the right time. I mean, they didn't have Joey Bosa for most of the season. He's back. And then Mike Williams, suffers an injury in Week 18, and Charger fans, all 5 of them, are ripping the head coach, saying, what are you doing playing him in this game when you had the 5 seed locked up? What are you doing? You didn't necessarily. Well, yeah, you did. Once Baltimore lost, I mean, you were pretty much set there. But the Chargers charged it up. Now, Mike Williams may not be available. Baltimore, Super Bowl odds, plus 3,500. FPI chance to make the Super Bowl, 3.2%. Ravens' defense has been a lot better since they acquired Roquan Smith. But not having Lamar Jackson for 5 games, the offense has been struggling. Second lowest scoring offense since Jackson has been out with a knee injury. And if he were to return, how rusty would they be? I don't know. But with Lamar Jackson, they got a shot. Without him, they're not beating Cincinnati. Then you have Miami with the longest odds, obviously, at plus 6,000 to win the Super Bowl, 1.4% chance to make it. Yeah, you have Tyreek Hill. Yeah, you have Jalen Waddle. But if Tua doesn't play, if he's not cleared from concussion protocol, then it really doesn't matter. Whether it's Skylar Thompson, whether it's Teddy Bridgewater, it doesn't matter. Okay? They're not going into Buffalo and beating the Bills. Not with one of those 2 guys at quarterback. If it's Teddy, they'll cover. They'll cover the spread, but they won't win. In the NFC, the Eagles have the best FPI odds to make the Super Bowl of any team in the field at 49.8%. Their Super Bowl odds to win are plus 550. Look, they got a great roster. Jalen Hurts came back, played a little hurt, but got a win in a game they had to win. They looked a little rusty. You want to be peaking heading into the playoffs? I mean, there have been some exceptions. The year the Saints won the Super Bowl, they had lost 3 games in a row to end the regular season. Now, the last game of the season that they lost to Carolina, they started Mark Brunell. They had the 1 seed locked up. They weren't out there trying to win the game per se, but the previous 2 games against Tampa and Dallas, they were, and they lost. So they were entering the playoffs with a bye, and by the time they played the Cardinals, they hadn't won a game in a month. And they went on to win the Super Bowl. Now, that's an exception most of the time. You want a team that's hot. You want a team that's trending. You want a team that's peaking. Cincinnati was hot entering the playoffs last year. Philly's the 1 seed. They have a bye, but they're not playing their best ball right now. And look, Lane Johnson, I mean, as much as we're talking about Jalen Hurts, Lane Johnson, Avonte Maddox, those are injuries that are big. The Eagles get home field advantage in a bye. So they're not going to play until January 21st or 22nd. So they have more time to recover. And they're going to host the lowest remaining seed. So it's either going to be Tampa or Dallas or New York or Seattle. The Eagles went 3-1 against their NFC East foes. They're split with the Cowboys. They swept the Giants. They hadn't played Tampa since the wild card game last year. I don't know. The NFC as a whole is really tough to handicap here. Isn't it? Like between the Eagles, the Niners, the Vikings, the Bucks, the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Seahawks. It feels much more wide open, and that one bounce of the ball, one weird play, it just feels a lot more unpredictable in my mind. It doesn't feel like the teams are as good as the AFC field. I'll say that. Everyone likes San Francisco, right? I mean, they're playing a third-string rookie quarterback. Well, they've won 10 straight. Yeah, they have. Their defense is dominant. Their special teams have improved. What are we going to see from Brock Purdy if this team is, down 4 or 5 points with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter? No rookie starting quarterback has ever made the Super Bowl. No rookie starting quarterback has ever made the Super Bowl. So no rookie quarterback's obviously won one, so no one's ever made it. Now, fortunately for Purdy, he doesn't have to carry the Niners. I mean, they're used to. They've won 4 playoff games since 2019. They got Elijah Mitchell back. They got Christian McCaffrey. Shout out Eli. ERAS zone, UL zone. And San Francisco swept Seattle during the season. They beat them by 20 at home. They beat them in Seattle last month. They like the idea that they get to play a familiar team. Minnesota, I mean, are you going to trust Kirk Cousins? Vikings have won all 11 of their games this season that have been decided by 1 score. That is an NFL record. So if it's a close game, you figure the Vikings will win. You could also see the Vikings just come out and just get beat down. Super Bowl odds for them plus 3,000. FBI chance to make the Super Bowl 3.1%. For the Niners, it's plus 450 Super Bowl odds. Much better. 21.7% to make it. Only 3.1% FBI chance for a team that won 13 games. I mean, the Vikings defense has just been bad. They've just been bad. But how have they been able to overcome it? Well, they're plus 9 in turnover margin on drives that have started in the fourth quarter or overtime. So as bad as their defense has been, when it gets late in the game and you got to make a play, they've done it. Big fumble recovery, big 4th down stop. The other thing the Vikings have going for them is they got Justin Jefferson. Holy cow. Holy cow. Minnesota and New York played just a couple of weeks ago. It was a close game. Vikings won because they win close games. 61-yard walk-off field goal by Greg Joseph won that game. All I know is I hope that the Vikings game, win or lose, I hope it's close so we get some epic Paul Allen calls. I need some good, solid Paul Allen calls. Just all out.
Look at that powerful kid dominate.
Give it to me. I need something. Tampa Bay plus 3,000 Super Bowl odds. FPI chance to make the Super Bowl 2.7%. They're going to get a lot of action. The reality is the Cowboys Super Bowl odds and FPI chance to make the Super Bowl are better at plus 1,319.8%. The Bucs will get a lot of action because of Tom Brady. But the Bucs have struggled all season. They look good one week on TV against Carolina. Oh, are they back? No. You know what was big for Tom Brady in that game is that they were getting offensive linemen back. And Donovan Smith and Tristan Wirfs, they're going to go, but they're still getting over some lower body injuries. Quarterback Carlton Davis hadn't practiced since an injury he got a few weeks ago. They have injuries up and down. Their center got hurt. Their tight ends and safety got hurt last week. I mean, yesterday. Tampa Bay is very, very beat up coming into this game. Very beat up. The Bucs beat the Cowboys all the way back in week 1, 19-3, when it looked like, Dallas was just going to have a rough season. And to their credit, they ended up having a good season. But you know, Brady has never lost to the Dallas Cowboys, ever, in his entire career. 7-0. Now he gets them in the playoffs, and Dallas at 12-5. Mike McCarthy, all good. If he has a boneheaded mistake in a close game and the Cowboys lose, he will get fired. He will. Their offense has been dominant since Dak Prescott came back. Their defense, not as much, but they're getting some players back in this game. Dallas has beaten Philly. They've beaten Minnesota handily. Like, if you're looking at this and you're not putting a logo or a name next to it, and you're just looking at it on a stat sheet, you would size it up and you would say, this team has a really good chance to make the Super Bowl. But it's the Cowboys. Are they going to win multiple road games? You know the last time Dallas won a road playoff game? Anybody? The year was 1992. Okay? That's the last time Dallas won a road playoff game. Okay, Tony Pollard was not born yet. He wasn't. Ezekiel Elliott was not born yet. Dak Prescott was not born yet. That's the last time they won a road playoff game. Those guys weren't even alive. 1992, 1991, and 1980. That's the last three road playoff wins for Dallas. Are they going to win 3 in a row? Dallas has been good at home this year. Where have they struggled? On the road. They're 12-5. 4 of those losses were on the road. The vast majority of their team was not born the last time they won a road playoff game. So on paper, you're like, yeah, this team, wow, look what they did in the season. Look at what they did against other teams that are in the playoffs. Look at how their offense is performing. Look at who they're getting back. Oh, look at the name. Look at the logo. Look at what they've done in the postseason in the 21st century. You have the Giants that we're happy to be here team, along with the Seahawks. The two, we're just happy to be here. Giants Super Bowl odds plus 6,000. FBI chance to make the Super Bowl 1.9%. Seattle plus 5,000. Their odds aren't as long as the Giants. Chance to make the Super Bowl 1.1%. I mean, the Giants have one win this season against a team with a winning record, and it was against Baltimore. But they get to play Minnesota, who, you know what, they almost beat a few weeks ago, and it's the Vikings. Seattle, again, just happy to be here. Before the season, if I gave you a list of teams that would be in the playoffs, Seattle, Giants, Cowboys, Bucks, Vikings, Niners, Eagles, Dolphins, Ravens, Chargers, Jags, Bengals, Bills, Chiefs, you might be a little surprised about the Jags. And I say a little because of the division they play in. You'd be like, okay, it's probably not a great record, but I'm a little surprised. You'd be a little surprised about the Giants. A little. But I think the biggest surprise would be Seattle. I mean, anything can happen in the NFL. Anything. Before the season, they were debating who was going to start, Geno Smith or Drew Lock. But they started 6-3. They beat the Giants and Chargers handily. They don't have Russell Wilson anymore. They have all these draft picks. They got the 3rd pick in the draft. And they're in the playoffs. So a fun season for them, but now they get to go play a familiar opponent that beat them twice this year. They're definitely, we're just happy to be here. That's a look at your Super Bowl odds and NFL playoff picture. .103.3 The GOAT, simulcast on 1420. I'm Scott Prather. It's The GOAT, the greatest sports talk of all time. You can email me. Jack emails. Scott, how about them Cowboys? How dare you doubt my boys? You know they're going all the way this year. Want to bet? Sure, I would love to bet. What do you want to put on the line? Your bet is that the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl? I'll gladly take what. Name the stakes, please. 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 Name the stakes. Name them. Name them. I think the NFC is wide open, but I don't think the Cowboys are going to win 3 road games in 3 weeks. I don't. Jay emails, he says, is Bill O'Brien coaching somewhere in the league next season? I don't know, man. Alabama's offensive coordinator. I think I guess there's a shot. I mean, he's the best coach in Texans history, and they gave him the GM job and kept him around for a while, and everybody criticized him. And then you're looking at the Texans now, and you're like, well, he won, he won 4 division titles in 5 years with the Texans. The year before he got fired 4 games into the 2020 season. Before that, they won the division. He only had 1 losing season in Houston when they were decimated by injuries. So I think in the grand scheme of things, you could look at Bill O'Brien if you're an owner of an NFL team, and you could talk yourself into that. I mean, I wouldn't go that route, but you could talk yourself into Bill O'Brien. Yeah. Sure. Traffic update. Be careful out there. Another accident reported on the corner of East University and Johnston Street just 8 minutes ago. Police are on the scene assisting. Please be safe out there, everybody. We'll take a timeout from NFL to college. Georgia against the underdog. Can't believe they're there. TCU Horned Frogs. Alex George, friend of the program. She's been on the show a number of times. She is a Bulldog fanatic. She also works with college athletes on NIL and other marketing things. She'll join us next from NYC to talk about tonight's game. Don't go anywhere. It's the Great Scott Show, and it continues right after this.
We don't talk trash.
There is no team in the National Football League right now more balanced than the Dallas Cowboys.
We chew it up and spit it back out. 103.3 The GOAT.
Welcome back into the Great Scott Show, 103.3 The GOAT, simulcast on 1420 The GOAT, the greatest sports talk of all time. Yes, the focus for the most part has been on the Saints' horrendous season and close of the season and on the NFL playoff picture, but at college football, one more game. The national championship, which you can hear tonight on our airwaves and on our streams following the Louisiana Basketball Live Coaches Show. Georgia and TCU, are we going to see the most unlikely national champion in college football, or are we going to see a repeat? Our guest now, friend of the program, friend of mine, Alex George, who, if you've never been listening when she's been on, she works with college athletes. She is the NIL social media and influencer manager with AG Media, and she's up in NYC. And Alex, last time I was talking to you, I felt like you had plans to attend the national championship game to see your Bulldogs. What happened? It's just is it LA's fault? Why do they have the national championship in Inglewood? That's what I want to know.
Well, good morning, Scott. Happy game day. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I mean, my plan was to fly out to LA, go to the game. We had some issues like trying to figure out where we're going to stay, just because if you fly into LA, the game's not in LA. You fly into LAX. Downtown LA is one area. Inglewood is a completely different area inland. The Ubers are terrible there. Apparently there's no tailgating, so what you're supposed to just Uber out there an hour before the game and be stuck in traffic, or Uber 5 hours before and, like, hang out at a sketchy bar in Inglewood before the game. Like, it doesn't make sense.
How do you have a stadium for a college national championship and you're not allowing tailgating? I mean, what is this?
They just don't understand that LA is the worst sports town. When I lived there for a year, like, it was so hard for me to find a good sports bar to catch games at, because people don't care about sports there unless, like, their team is, like, in the playoffs or is about to win the championship. Like, that's the only time LA people care about their team.
Now, I'll say this, and these brands are probably bigger than just LA. I do think, and I don't like them, but I do think, you know, the Lakers have a certain, I think they have a fan base, and the Dodgers where it's like, okay, y'all like these teams, but everything else you really don't care about unless they're winning. I mean, I'll at least give them the Lakers and Dodgers.
Yes. I mean, I think Laker fans are like a diehard. It's like a dynasty. It's like something that is passed down to you. Same with the Dodgers. But, yeah, I mean, they have 2 football teams, 2 baseball teams, 2 hockey teams. It's not fair.
Yeah, my sister lived there, and she would you know, she'd try to talk trash, like anytime the Saints were doing, or just anytime she'd run into someone. It was something like sports trash, and they'd just be like, what? What are you doing? They looked at you like you were weird. Yeah. Like, what is this? Yeah. Who is this? What is this it's foreign? Like, what's going on?
It's like you're wearing a Dodgers hat. Like, at least understand why you're wearing it. Have some type of knowledge. It's like when people wear band shirts and you ask them what their favorite song is. Like, they don't know. It's kind of the same thing.
They don't take it off. Give me the shirt. Give me the shirt off your back, not because you're being nice, but because you don't deserve to wear it.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's more like a statement for them, like a fashion statement.
I remember when she was young, she saw someone there, and this was, like, I don't know, early 2000s. Just to keep in mind, right? It wasn't like there was a ton of Saints gear. This is pre-Drew Brees. She saw someone wearing a bunch of Saints stuff, and she was like, "Who dat?" She got all excited, and she like went up to him, and they looked at her like, "What are you yelling?" She's like, "Who dat?" They're like, "Who what?" He's like, "You got Saints gear," and the guy was like, "Oh, I got a good deal on it at like a thrift shop." But he was like decked out, wearing like a hat, a shirt, and some kind of other paraphernalia. It was like, get out of here. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, we're bashing. And I like LA, but from a sports standpoint, no, it's not good.
It's not it.
Certainly not college. You know what I mean? You know, but yet, Alex, I mean, all the reports are that they're making tons of money. They've sold all these deluxe packages, and it feels very much like Super Bowl-esque, like, you know, it feels very corporate. And that's too bad, because you knew at some point it was going to happen in college sports, and it really has in a lot of ways. But sometimes, based on the venue, you go to a national championship game, and you're going to see pretty much just 2 colors of each team. And tonight, you're going to see a whole lot of just people hanging out. They're not really there to watch the game, and that's unfortunate. But especially if it turns into a good game. Are you hoping for a good game, or are you hoping for just a stress-free blowout for your dogs, which a lot of people think is going to happen?
I definitely want a good game. I mean, the New Year's, the Peach Bowl was very stressful. I mean, that third quarter was all Ohio State, so us coming back in the fourth quarter was incredible. But it was still a close game. Like, I yelled at the TV a lot. I was like, "What are we doing?" So I will be yelling. I think we're getting a lot of points. Like, I'm nervous about the spread. I feel like it's a little bit disrespectful to TCU in a way, and I'm saying that in a nice way. But I'm really hoping for a good game. I definitely don't want it to be a blowout.
Well, I know you like to place a wager. Like, I would say occasionally. Can I say frequently? Is that fair?
Fair.
All right.
Very fair.
Georgia minus 12.5. You just referenced it. You felt like, I mean, did you put some money down? Because I know even when it's your own team, you still sometimes just put some apples down.
I may put some money down on the over. The only bet I took for the game against Ohio State was Brock Bowers to score a touchdown, which he did not. So I may do that bet again today.
All right. So it's going to be
maybe the over.
It's not going to It's not going to be just a straight up just the spread.
No.
Georgia and TCU, all right? On one hand, I'm looking at the dogs. They're undefeated. The game against Ohio State was interesting. I mean,
brutal.
Some felt like they got outplayed but still won, whatever. I'm sure they would take that any day. You get the win, you move on.
Yes.
But, like, it's hard to – so I'm only because, you know, they're a big favorite. I'm nitpicking here, but – if you're a Georgia fan, I'm guessing you have some concerns about the secondary. I'm guessing you have some concerns. You know, they got up big on LSU, and then LSU kind of was able to throw the ball around a lot. And you could say, oh, it's kind of the defense that they were playing and da-da-da-da. And then you see Ohio State and you see what they did offensively. And I'm looking at the games they played. I mean, Georgia's so big up front that if you try to get involved in a physical game with them, you're going to get mauled. And if you're an opponent, you want to play up tempo. You want to try to wear them out. You want to try to say, okay, you've got all the and TCU is a team that I think talent wise certainly is outmatched tonight. But that's their style, right? That's what they want to do. Yeah. So are you a little nervous about that?
I mean, it's going to be a tough game. Our defense is going to have to play the best defense they've ever played, because I think they were a little bit non-existent during an Ohio State game. I was a little nervous. They gave C.J. Stroud so much time. I was like, what are we doing here? I think especially they're going to have to watch for Quentin Johnson, like their wide receiver. It's going to be a tough game for us on our defense side. Like our defense needs to play much harder than our offense for sure. Obviously, we'll need to score some points, but we need to stop them from scoring points as well.
Yeah, I think we can expect a lot of points tonight. To me, if Georgia's going to blow them out, it's going to happen early. Like I think they get on them early. But if TCU's able to keep it close, they're a lot more fun than the Vikings. I mean, the Vikings are, but they're similar, not just in color, but it just in the fact that they win close games for the most part. Yeah. There's something to the ability to win close ones, and if they're able to just hang in for a half, I think we have a game. But if Georgia starts running away with it early, I mean, you can. I know you won't, but everyone else, if you want to watch something else, I mean, feel free, because it's going to be it's either happening early or it's close all the way through. I don't think it's going to be it's close for a half and then Georgia blew them out in the second. I just don't see that. I don't see that playing out tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we have been a second half team this season. I feel like we've had a few good comebacks. So we'll see. I'm definitely nervous. I'm excited to see what Stetson's going to do. I feel like if we do win this back-to-back, Stetson's going to be the greatest quarterback in Georgia history.
Yeah, your guy Stetson Bennett.
Sure.
What is he now, 37? How old is Stetson now?
He's 25.
25, my bad, 25. No, people get on. I mean, Joe Burrow was 23 when he was doing everything. He wasn't that much older. But Stetson, I like Stetson's story a lot, obviously, and I think for him, that drive against Ohio State was incredible. I mean, he passed for 398 yards in that game.
Yeah,
he was electric, and he's got a chance to go back to back. If the Bulldogs do it, I know as originally a walk on. If the Bulldogs do it, the idea of like Bama being Bama, does Georgia kind of take that over? Like whenever any team wins a big game and their fans start chanting, "We want Bama," whether they're serious or doing it ironically, but the chant. Do they need to change that to "We want Georgia" if the Bulldogs are able to pull this off tonight?
I feel like we deserve their respect. I think it's going to take a few more seasons for us to stay on top, but yeah, I mean, I know Nick Saban's still going to come back for vengeance. He's like a cockroach. He won't die. So I think like Alabama will still come back to defend who they are, but I think we do deserve that respect.
Yeah.
We want Georgia now. I don't know if it sounds as good as we want Bama, but we want Georgia, but we want people to be scared and want to play us.
Well,
crush them.
I think tonight goes a long way. I mean, it's awfully hard to win back-to-back. People can nitpick and say, well, they didn't have to play Bama or they didn't have to do this. Back-to-back is back-to-back, and undefeated is undefeated. And so it's a lot on the line. And then for TCU, a team that, was 5-7 last year, first-year head coach, came out of nowhere.
Weren't even ranked.
It's just it's a Cinderella. It's a Cinderella story that would be the perfect ending for them. So the storylines are built into it, even though the venue is the wrong place for a college national championship game. We'll see what unfolds. What is your prediction tonight?
I'm just hoping that we win. I don't think we will cover, but I just want us to win the game and score a lot of points.
There it is. A Bulldogs fan who grew up in Georgia. Alex, appreciate you taking the time. Enjoy the game tonight. And if you can find that, I don't know, that I would say probably late 40s, early 50s. That guy that was just wearing like a belt and khakis, but like no shirt and looked like just in complete disarray. Yes. That guy that was like no paint on his chest, nothing. But it turns out he said, well, I lost the shirt for the last close game, so I decided to do it again. If you can find that guy, just tell him, I don't care what the weather is today. You just keep your shirt off all day. Even though no one wants to see your body, it's not the nicest thing to look at. Just do it all day. Do it for the team.
Do it for the dog.
There it is. Alex, all the best. Enjoy the game, and we'll talk to you down the line.
Thanks, Scott.
All the best. That is Alex George. You can give her a follow on Twitter at AlexGeorge5. She is a NIL social media and influencer manager for AG Media. Huge sports fan. Likes to place wagers quite a bit. And she's a great person and a great friend of the program. 8:45, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. The most veteran quarterback in the AFC playoffs. Who is it? The answer might surprise you. That and more coming your way next. It's the Great Scott Show, 103.3 The GOAT. Simulcast on 1420. It's The GOAT, the greatest sports talk of all time.
Download the free 103.3 The GOAT app now.
Right now.
You've got mail and the very latest sports news now.
Did he say what I think he said?
103.3 The GOAT.
Welcome back into the Great Scott Show. Rage Cajun Hoops. Mention it. Coach Bob Marlin will be on the show tomorrow morning, 7:45. Coach Gary Broadhead on Wednesday. Women won at Texas State by 20. Great defense. And the men, beat Georgia State 78-70. Sweep the homestand. Now you got a 4-game road trip. It's tough to win on the road, but Jalen Dalcourt, 11 points in the first half, 3 3-pointers. He and Greg Williams had solid games. Jordan Brown, of course, got it done, as he typically does. But that run at the end of the first half helped them go into halftime with a double-digit lead, and they were able to just take advantage. I mean, the Panthers, they cut it down to maybe 6-1, 5-1, something like that, but it was a game that the Cajuns handled business on the glass, got to the free throw line, got a lot of second-chance points, and once they established a solid lead, they just never let the game get away from them. They didn't. And now you got 4 straight on the road. First one is this Thursday against ULM, 6:30. Louisiana basketball live tonight at Pete's at 6 o'clock. You'll hear Coach Marlin. You'll hear Coach Broadhead. Then after that, you'll hear the national championship game on our airwaves. 103.3 The GOAT simulcast on 1420. NFL playoffs. Playoffs in the AFC. The most veteran quarterback in the AFC is Patrick Mahomes. Not just in terms of games played. Obviously, he's played a whole bunch. But a guy that turned 27 this season is the most veteran quarterback in age as well. Between Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert and whether it be Lamar Jackson or Huntley. Whether it be Tua or the third-string, rookie quarterback in Skylar Thompson. I guess if Teddy Bridgewater were to end up playing, he would be the most veteran. But he probably won't. I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes. And in the NFC, it's Geno Smith. Actually, no, I'm kidding. That was a joke. Obviously, it's Tom Brady. I mean, he's only been playing for forever. The Bucs, between Brady and you got some young guys in Hurts and Brock Purdy and Daniel Jones, but you got a lot of veteran quarterbacks in the NFC, and Geno Smith and Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott and Tom Brady. They would all be the most veteran quarterback, but they're in the AFC. I hope the playoffs are fun, man. Doubleheader Saturday, tripleheader Sunday, and then the Monday night game. This is what the NFL calls the Super Wild Card Weekend. You put the word super in front of something, it just, remember the Superstore? I remember as a kid going by the Superstore, where the movie theater now is on Johnson Street. And I didn't even know it was in there. I just wanted to go in because it was called the Superstore. Soccer leagues overseas, they try to break off, start their own, just calling it the Super League. It was, oh, wait, what league? Great Friends? No, Super Friends. Maybe we should call it the Super Scott Show. I don't know. That sounds a little corny. Of course, Great Scott Show is kind of corny, too, I admit. Super Wild Card Weekend. When the owners got together, like, we're going to add an extra playoff team in each conference. We'll get more TV money. We'll get more games in the playoffs. We'll get more interest in the regular season. More teams will be in the hunt. Whichever owner said deal with one caveat, it's got to be called Super. You got to call it the Super Wild Card Weekend. They deserve a pat on the back. They do. 103.3 The GOAT simulcast on 1420. Another vehicle accident just reported. A lot of them this morning. Please be careful out there, everybody. Vehicle accident being reported seconds ago on the corner of Northwest Evangeline Thruway and Bellot Street. Please be safe. Weather forecast today, mix of clouds and sunny. Cool, high of 65. Tonight, clearing cool with a low of 49. Tomorrow on the show, we will talk about tonight's national championship game. We will interview Louisiana Raging Cajun head basketball coach Bob Marlin. Jay Walker will be in the 8 o'clock hour. Looking forward to that and more. Thanks to the listeners. Thanks to the callers. Thanks to Alex George. Thanks to all of you. It's been fun. Enjoy the football tonight. I will talk to you guys tomorrow, same time, same place. This is the Great Scott Show on 103.3 The GOAT, simulcast on 1420. It's the GOAT, the greatest sports talk of all time.